Off the southwestern coast of Scotland, there's a small Hebridean island some people refer to as the Whiskey Island. Well, this place is called Islay, and it's a place that captured my heart and imagination when I got the chance to visit in the summer of 2023. And that's an experience I will always remember. But I've also learned that some whiskeys made on Islay are just a little bit more Islay than others. What do I mean by this? Well, some actually use barley grown on Islay itself to make their whiskey. I have two such examples of this on the table in front of me here. To my right, I have the Kilchoman 100% Islay 10th edition single malt Scotch whisky. And to my left, from the Bruichladdich Distillery, I have the Port Charlotte Islay Barley 2012. These single malt Scotch whiskies both are using Islay barley. So I think it's a great chance to see which one does Islay barley better. My name is Matt, this is Whiskey on the West Coast, and it's time for a little Islay v Islay. Our first competitor in this Islay barley battle is the Kilchoman 100% Islay 10th edition single malt Scotch whisky. This whiskey is bottled at 50% ABV, it is non-chill filtered, it is natural color, and it's coming in with a phenol count of about 20 phenol parts per million. It is a vatting of 39 Ex-Bourbon barrels and 2 Oloroso Sherry Butts. It's a 2020 release of about 12,400 bottles. This whiskey was distilled from the 2007, 2009, and 2010 barley harvests, and it is a minimum of 9 years of age. This bottle cost me about $130 Canadian when I purchased it. Our second competitor, as mentioned earlier, is from the Bruichladdich Distillery, and it is the Port Charlotte Islay Barley 2012 heavily peated single malt Scotch whisky. This whiskey is coming at 50% ABV, it is non-chill filtered, natural color, and has a phenol count of 40 phenol parts per million. This was bottled in 2019, and it was bottled at an age of minimum of 6 years old. This was made with barley harvested from 8 different farms on Islay, and it was matured in both first fill ex-bourbon casks and second fill wine casks. When I purchased this whiskey, it cost me about $95 Canadian. Some of the reasons why I thought these two whiskeys would make a good side-by-side comparison are the fact that they're both peated Islay single malt Scotch whiskeys, but they're also from the same side of the island even, in fact. They also have a lot of the same statistics, so they're both under the age of 10 years old. They are both bottled at 50% ABV, neither are colored, neither are chill filtered, and there's some similarities in the cask makeup, though there are a few differences there. But one of the big and intriguing similarities here is the provenance of the barley to a certain extent. So in the Port Charlotte Islay Barley 2012, there's 8 farms listed in which the barley was harvested on Islay. One of those farms is Rockside Farms. Now, you might be familiar with that name from previous Bruichladdich releases, such as this one here. This is an unpeated Bruichladdich release called Bruichladdich 2007 Islay Barley Rockside Farms. This is made 100% from Islay grown on Rockside Farms on Islay. Now, I mentioned Rockside Farms because in 2015, the Kilchoman Distillery purchased the farm that the distillery was located on. That farm is Rockside Farms. That means both the Kilchoman 100% Islay Barley as well as the Port Charlotte Islay Barley 2012 both contain barley from these Rockside Farms. That's a really interesting thing. Some of the big differences to note are going to be the age. So the Port Charlotte is 6 years of age versus 9 years on the Kilchoman. We also should be noting the big difference in phenol count. The Port Charlotte is almost twice as heavily peated as the Kilchoman with 40 ppm versus the 20 on the Kilchoman. Another big difference is going to be where they got their peat source from. So the Kilchoman is using peat sourced from nearby Loch Gorm on Islay. So when they floor malt their barley, they're drying it in using a kiln that's fed with Islay peat. The Port Charlotte, however, when they have the barley that's harvested on Islay, they send it to Baird's Maltings. At Baird's Maltings, when they go to use their kiln to dry it, they're using Highland peat to dry their barley. And that's going to make a difference because I do believe there is a difference in taste profiles oftentimes with peat that's sourced from different areas. Islay peat does not necessarily taste like Highland peat or like Orkney peat. I think this is something definitely worth noting. Let's get to the comparison. Okay, Kilchoman 100% Islay Barley, the 10th edition, on the nose, is like this beautiful salted lemon, petrichor note, light peat, pineapple, mango, guava. Oh my gosh. The tropical fruits on the nose are amazing. It's like this light, earthy peat. Yeah, that smoke is really lovely, but it's not overbearing, which means all these like bright tropical fruits and like bright, juicy, fresh tropical fruits are all over this nose. Oh man, wonderfully mineralic nose too. Very expressive, very vibrant, very bold, and it's this lovely combination of those bright, vibrant notes along with the richness from that peat. What an amazing nose on that whiskey. Love that. Comparing that to the Port Charlotte Islay Barley 2012 on the nose, immediately kind of a sour cream glazed donut sort of vibe. If you frequent Tim Hortons ever, there's like a cheesy, funky note, almost like vanilla and strawberry yogurt. So that might be the red wine casks in there too. But there's a woodsy peat smoke on this. That seems to analog more with a Highland peat for me. Yeah, this smoke is almost like a spicy smoke too. And after comparing it to the Islay Barley, it comes off a little minty. Like there's a minty eucalyptus thing going on here. Underneath, a little bit more slightly medicinal. Definitely bigger peat smoke on this than on the Kilchoman 100% Islay. But really interesting, unique notes with that cheesy, almost like lactic funk. That is something I pick up in a lot of like ex-Bourbon Bruichladdich releases. So that's really cool to see that distillate character pulling through. Very, very different whiskey, which is exciting because that's what we want in whiskey. We want variety, right? So that's beautiful. All right, let's move to the palate on this Kilchoman 100% Islay Barley. There's that rich, earthy, leathery peat smoke, rich, oily, viscous palate. One of the things I do find in common with most of these Islay Barley expressions is they are oily whiskeys. They are thick, viscous whiskeys with a great mouthfeel. They really hold on for a really long ride, and that really transfers over to the finish as well. A lot of like full-bodied, I guess, is the way to describe these whiskeys. Oh man, okay, another sip. Peat smoke way more apparent on the palate than on the nose. But so are the fruits. The fruits are there, tropicals and orchard fruit. So the pineapple, mango, but also some like pear, apple as well. Yeah, that touch of that leathery, earthy peat. Smoke, still coastal, still get that like coastal salinity coming through. Wow, just it's a beautiful whiskey. It's a beautiful whiskey. It's one of my favorites. If you watched my review of it, you know that I'm absolutely a fan of this whiskey, and it was my runner-up for my favorite whiskey of the year in 2023. Big competition for this Port Charlotte Islay Barley 2012. Let's go ahead and try the palate on this Islay Barley from Port Charlotte. Very much steering into, again, almost like a bright, clean malt note. Now on the finish, because I'm taking in the finish right now, it's all about that rich peat smoke that's going a little bit more into like, oh gosh, more like a charcoal note. This is much more black pepper. There's much more big peat smoke than compared to the Kilchoman. It doesn't come off quite as much on the actual palate, but more so on the finish. The peat just comes in and it's still going right now. It's still rolling peat smoke, rolling bonfire smoke on the finish even now. And actually still a bit of that black pepper on the back of my tongue. So oily. Again, really viscous whiskey. That sour cream glazed donut vibe comes through from the nose, on the palate as well. Butterscotch, vanilla custard, black pepper, almost like black pepper, but also kind of like Montreal steak spice, like getting maybe the charred ends of a steak right now. Coming off the barbecue, if you get like the grizzle that's a little bit more blackened than the rest of the steak, I'm getting that sort of vibe off of it. And I feel like this steers a lot more into the ex-bourbon casks than say the classic Port Charlotte 10, which is really interesting. I find it a lot. I do find it more viscous and oily than the Port Charlotte 10. I should do another side-by-side review to check that, but from my memory, from my recollection, it's super oily, super viscous. I picked that up on things like the Islay Barley Octomores as well. Again, this is a notion I have. I should really put it to the test in the future here. Really, really enjoying this whiskey. A quick 1-2 comparison here, and I'm going to pick a winner between these. I'm going to tell you why I think both these whiskeys deserve a place on your shelf. I don't know how Kilchoman can improve on this whiskey. That is incredible. And the peat, the extra oomph from that peat in this Port Charlotte Islay Barley is really wonderfully enjoyable. Okay, so I'm going to tell you right away, I think both these whiskeys operate in a bit different fashion. As I mentioned earlier, we like variety as whiskey fans. That's what we want to see, because we don't want to be having this same sort of whiskey from each and every distillery. Variety is the spice of life. This Kilchoman 100% Islay Barley, the tropical fruits on this are amazing. The coastal feel is all over it, and the peat is like that extra ingredient that helps bring the whole thing full circle, as opposed to being the star of the show, which to me is becoming more and more my preferred profile, as opposed to super heavily peated. The Port Charlotte Islay Barley, on the other hand, does a really good job of highlighting the really bright, crisp barley sugar notes coming from that malt, but it also is putting that peat smoke on display, that peat influence. And if you're looking for something more heavily peated, I think this is a great option. They do things differently. However, the Islay Barley from Port Charlotte, the fruiting just isn't quite there to the same level as the Kilchoman, and I find it less complex than the Kilchoman 100% Islay 10th edition. I have become a huge fan of these Islay Barley releases from Kilchoman. I try not to fanboy too much, but truly, if you're an Islay fan, I think you really do have to try these releases, especially if you're not just looking for the most heavily peated whiskey out there. Again, it was the runner-up for my whiskey of the year. I adore this. I have had the 10th edition, the 12th edition, and the 3rd edition. The 3rd edition is nothing like the 10th or the 12th. The 10th and 12th were both fantastic. There is the 13th edition out now, which is 100% Ex-Bourbon. That is the most recent release in the range. This Port Charlotte Islay Barley 2012, I'm really happy to have this on my shelf. And again, I think it just does things differently. The increase in peating level and smoke, and focusing more on the barley character, it seems. I think it's a beautiful whiskey in its own right. But Kilchoman will take this battle for sure. If it's a head-to-head showdown, if these are going up against one another, Kilchoman is just doing this beautifully. They're my winner. I feel a little dirty because Bruichladdich is probably my favorite distillery on Islay, and it feels weird not to pick them as a winner in this battle, but man alive, that Islay Barley from Kilchoman is so good. Thank you guys for watching this far into this video. If you haven't already, if you could like, share, subscribe, I really appreciate all the support. Leave a comment down below if you've had any Islay Barley expressions, what you think. If you've had these two, let me know what your favorite is. And I thank you for coming and checking out the video. And until next time, from the West Coast, slàinte.